Good morning. Welcome to Morning Java, brought to you as always by our friends at the Get-Go Cafe and Market, where my wife, Dahlia, and I just came back from, and we got a whole bunch of food. We actually got dinner there. And among them, the things that were in the goodies was this club wrap, in spinach wrap, roast beef, turkey, ham.
How much was that?
I believe, Carter, since you asked, it was only $4.99 for the 7-inch wrap, also the same for the 7-inch subs. It's a good place, and it's
a great
open.
place. They're Get-Go right now. I'm telling you guys, if you need quick food, you go in there. They're clean. They're taking this very seriously. They're showing you their employees aren't being sloppy with your food. You can get nice, healthy food. You can get good tasting food. It's all at Get-Go Cafe and Market, and it's so fast. You're in, you're out. You get your dinner, you get your lunch, whatever time of the day you're eating. That's a great place to go. And $4.99 7-inch subs and wraps like that all day.
Speaking of things that are normal,
Ooh.
the NFL draft is Thursday night. The Bengals are perpetually on the clock, so that I don't want to point out here that the Bengals are on the clock. That's kind of a given at this point. Let's talk about this draft in general. A lot of people are going to watch this, aren't they?
Yeah, it's gonna be huge. I mean, first of all, we haven't had any sports for over a month. The NFL draft usually gets in the tens of millions as far as their watchers normally. On top of, like, last year, they had 600,000 people attend the live events. I am very interested to see how these numbers pop up this year. I don't know if you got a chance to watch that Jordan documentary, The Last Dance, the first 2 episodes that came out. According to the numbers, they said there were over 6 million people that watched the first episode. And then I think it was like a little under 6 million people that watched the second episode that all aired in one night on ESPN. That was a documentary. This is going to be something that's live, and it's always that time of year where everyone has hope, Dayon. There's no way to lose the draft. I mean, you can not like the pick, but there's no losses that go on your record, right? Everyone, you get that first round pick. If your team stunk last year, guess what? There's this new guy. There's all this hope. There's so much excitement, and that's what all these fans are living for. Give them some hope, as we've all been locked in our homes for so long.
Well, I was going to say hope is defined multiple ways right now in this context. More than anything, I'm happy that the NFL fought through the optics to make this happen. And I'm choosing the words carefully there because, Roger Goodell, again, in another interview on Wednesday, was trying to make it sound like the NFL was doing this for the betterment of the public. And come on, the NFL is the NFL. I mean, they're a multi-billion-dollar business that's ultimately trying to make money. Yeah. If this is somewhere in the back of their heads, great. But what I love about the NFL's decision was that they fought through the potential bad optics. They said, look, we're going to do this. We're absolutely going to do this. And here they are. And then as a result, now, Gary Bettman, the NHL's commissioner, said Wednesday night, that the NHL might also do its draft on time in June and do it the same way now that the NFL has led the way. I'm happy about that. I'm happy there's going to be something on. Carter, I don't care how klutzy it looks. I don't care that Goodell's going to be literally in the basement of his home doing this. I don't care if the Bengals connection fritzes out the way it did in their mock attempt at doing this on Monday. I'm just really looking forward to enjoying it. And you're right. I think you're going to see a massive audience for this.
I think a lot of people are going to tune in. It's going to be so much fun. And again, you're going to get to see all these, because all that happens when that team gets their first pick, there's going to be all those highlights on the guy. And everyone's going to talk about, oh, he's so fast. Oh, he's so quick. Oh, he's so strong. Oh, he's so smart. That's going to be everyone's going to be talking about. And it's going to give us so much entertainment over the weekend. I'm so hyped to get it started. And what's crazy is the Steelers don't even pick until Friday.
No, if you picture the way they would do the screens, okay, it's not just going to be like this, like here's me in a box and here's Carter in a box and here's whatever. There's going to be people in boxes like this, but you're also going to have, like you said, the high tech highlights, the music. It's not going to look and sound all that different. I really believe that from a production standpoint. The graphics can all be the same. All the tickers that show you, who's picking next and everything. The only thing that's going to look different, Carter, is this. The boxes of people. And look, awesome. Bring it on,
I'm ready for it.
Okay, we know Joe Burrow.
Yes.
We're going to get to know Joe Burrow a lot better over the years, seeing him twice a year. We're going to get to know him arguably as well as we got to know Andy Dalton. And that's not to put Joe Burrow in Andy's category. And I mean that in the other direction, because Andy Dalton's at least been in the NFL and made his money and won some games. Joe Burrow hasn't done anything of the sort yet.
No, I agree.
But what about after that? Who excites you after that?
I mean, there's a ton of talent in this draft. Chase Young, I have it for my money being the best player in this draft. He's definitely has to go to number 2 to Washington.
Period. Period.
Yes,
the best player.
Yeah, the best player.
If you were the Bengals, you would take him.
If I was again, franchise quarterback puts a lot more weight on it. It's not sometimes it's not about the best; it's about what you actually need right there. If I was the Bengals, I would trade. If I had a chance, I would see if I could trade back into the back end of the first round, get another pick, and then use that to get another quarterback, maybe to get Tua Tagovailoa. Because honestly, I rate Tua Tagovailoa higher than Joe Burrow. And I'm excited to see what happens with Tua Tagovailoa. Yeah, I know it may be a shocker to some people, but when I look at Tua Tagovailoa, how consistent he's been over his years, even with the injuries, his decision-making process, his arm, his athleticism. I like what he brings to the table. I think that the fact that people have seen a lot more tape on him and he still found a way to succeed. Whereas Joe Burrow, I mean, he played for 2 years at LSU. His first year, he stunk. The second year, he had a lot of talent around him, and he did great. Like, he had arguably the best quarterback season of all time in college football, but it was 1 year. And how many times have we seen that 1 year, sort of pump a guy up? And then
but the upward curve counts in football maybe more than it does in any other sport. And his upward curve was a rocket launch. So
it was. But more to your point, this is a great wide receiver draft. Everyone's going to be wondering who jumps first at the wide receiver position. There are people projecting about at least 7 offensive tackles being drafted in the first round. There's 4 in my money that are going to go in the first 12 picks, which is insane to think about when you're thinking about offensive linemen. I really think that if I was to rate the athleticism and the ability and what I'd like to see out of an NFL player, in my top 5, maybe even my top 3 is Isaiah Simmons, the inside linebacker out of Clemson. If you want to know who he is, Pittsburgh, imagine Ryan Shazier, because he's long, he's tall, and he's fast. He runs a sub-4.4 40-yard dash, and he can play almost every position. He played slot cornerback, inside linebacker, pass rusher, deep safety. He can do all that, and whoever gets him is going to have a superstar in the middle of their defense. That's going to be exciting. And what's great about this for the Steelers is that there's going to be a run on wide receiver. You got all the Alabama receivers. You got Ruggs. You got Judy. Then you got CeeDee Lamb. You got this great run at wide receiver. You're going to have the run at offensive tackle. You're going to have people that want their quarterbacks. You still got your edge rushers that are going to be out of the way. That's going to open up the Steelers' opportunity to get a safety or a running back, which to me are 2 of the primary things that they could get with that second round pick.
Oh, Carter, he said safety. He did. No.
Yes, absolutely.
No.
Think about it. You listen. What happened last year when they were missing Sean Davis against the Patriots?
Yeah, I don't care. I don't want for this pick can't go into a third string safety. No thanks. It's
a second string safety, and I think with the way that they're planning to use their defense, if you get a safety who can play deep, like Antoine Winfield from Minnesota, you put him deep. That allows Edmonds. He no longer has to play deep, which is where he's the most susceptible.
Yes, he is.
You drop him in the box where he's a lot better. He can bump and run people. He can hit more. That's where you're going to see him more of his comfort zone. And it allows Minkah Fitzpatrick to be that X factor. Now he can line up all over the field because you've got that deep, reliable guy. If Terrell Edmonds is your only other guy that you're confident putting out there on the field with Minkah Fitzpatrick, then Minkah has to be that deep guy, and that puts him in a pigeonhole. That's what I'm not saying it's definitely going to be a safety, but if Grant Delpit, Xavier McKinney, who I have going both in the first round, but if either of those guys fall to the second round, that's going to allow Antoine Winfield from Minnesota, who's one of my favorite players in this draft, to sneak up there. You can still get a Jeremy Chin or an Ashton Davis. Any of those guys, I think, would be a real win for what the Steelers are trying to do on defense, even though we know that they're looking for people on offense.
Well, I was going to say here, sometimes, as you were saying about the Bengals, need tops. What the want is. And the need unquestionably is on offense. The need for Ben Roethlisberger to have support and depth at running back and at wide receiver, to have that deep target. To me, that tops the impact of. I mean, listen, I hear what you're saying. It sounds good, but to me, I look at that defense and I think it's already the best in the National Football League with a healthy Stephon Tuitt back. I think that helps overcome not having Javon Hargrave.
I agree.
But offensively, there's just way too much to gain there from a lower point. Do you know what I mean?
J.K. Dobbins is there. Go get him. I mean, again, that's why I think this is so advantageous, because even if you don't get a safety, you look at – I'm saying if all those wide receivers gone, all those offensive linemen, the quarterback –
But they won't be. The offense – I'm sorry, the receivers – you're not going to have 10 receivers gone by the time you get to 49.
Dayon, have you looked at all of these mock drafts?
I have, but I've never seen 10. I've seen 8. I've seen
9.
Yeah.
I've seen people jump at some of these wide receivers.
But you're talking about 1 out of every 4 picks, and there are other teams that have other needs. I mean, that's a crazy run on receivers.
But that's how deep this year is, and that's what people are saying.
I know, but we'll see. I really think the Steelers – look, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I wouldn't have a problem with if the receivers are all gone and the Steelers are forced to take the best running back available. I'm not going to cry over it.
But that's what I'm saying. It might, maybe not the best, but the number 2 or number 3, I think that would be a great place for them.
My column that's out this morning recommends that people who are bothered by watching this show tonight instead just pop in 3.5 hours of Minka highlights. Now, you can't put together 3.5. Actually, you probably could. You could sit there through all.
Don't challenge me. I will do it.
3.5 hours of all 22 overhead film of Minka Fitzpatrick making all the reads and do all the other special things that he does. But then I ended up texting you Wednesday afternoon with what I thought at the time was a crazy thought, just asking you if Minka Fitzpatrick is in fact the best safety in the NFL right now. And your answer was?
Yes. And here's why. I look at Minka Fitzpatrick, and sure, he had one really great year, but when you look at the All-Pros, he was first right up there with Jamal Adams, the strong safety from the New York Jets. I like what Minka Fitzpatrick does better than what Jamal Adams does. He's he's the guy that can drop in the box, hit a lot, cause those fumbles, help underneath. But Minka helps a lot with that too, and he drops back deep, and he's a much better deep safety than Jamal Adams is. Now, granted, this a lot has to do with Derwin James from the Chargers being injured, because he was the guy that looked like he was going to be the best safety in football this year.
If you're not playing.
But when you're out, when you can't make the club from the tub, and that's why Minka Fitzpatrick was the first team All-Pro. And the question is, Dayon, for me, because a lot of people have been asking, and I ask this on the Locked On Steelers podcast almost every time I do a mock draft, I'm like, is who the Dolphins get at 18, can you say that they're definitely better than Minka Fitzpatrick?
Oh, no, there's no chance.
Exactly, and that's my point is that –
well, hang on, because remember that at the time that the trade happened, it looked like the world was ending around the Steelers. Everybody, Ben went down, and it just – everything was crumbling.
They were 0-2.
And they were 0-2, and they were heading into San Francisco, and it was just going to be just all doom and gloom. And everyone was saying the Steelers are going to go 1-15 or something, and the Dolphins are going to end up with a top 10 pick. So that was the initial bar. Remember, it was going to be all about, well, are you really giving up a top 10 pick? Of course, the Steelers, the players, coaches, to their credit, ended up becoming a much better football team than what a lot of people could have anticipated or certainly did at the time. That to me is where the bar is with that trade. Is Minka better than anybody? Is Minka better than anybody else who will be taken in the top 10? Is Minka maybe Carter? He's the best player at his position.
Yeah,
in the National Football League,
and they know they have.
He was at least mentioned. Not that he was a serious candidate, but for a while there, he was getting mentioned for DPOY.
Yeah,
and I'm sorry that you don't just say, oh, this player, Joe Burrow or anybody else is going to be that guy. You don't know that.
You don't know that. And again, he's also as young as some of these guys coming out. He's
right.
He's old. I think Joe Burrow is actually older than Minka Fitzpatrick. That's the crazy part. Because he's 24 years old. Minka, is, and this is another thing that I loved about Minkah Fitzpatrick, and I wrote about this the night that they traded for him, when I said that this was a really great move from Kevin Colbert, was that Minkah is a locker room leader. He has the mentality to know how to not just step up on the field, but step up and be the leader that people need. And you saw that as Joe Hayden would sometimes to defer to him, and say that I can make more risks because that guy has my back. And having a guy like that, there's no 100% sure that you're getting that now. Like, for example, Isaiah Simmons, really excited to see what he becomes. I think that he has a lot of potential in the NFL. But there's question marks there. How does he fit into your system? And everything like that. How does he become a leader in the pros? We've seen Minkah Fitzpatrick. He's doing that. He's the best safety, from my book, in the NFL right now. And someone may step up. Kevin Byard, I think, had a bit of an off year for the Titans. He wasn't as dynamic as he had been in years prior. But Minkah Fitzpatrick is a surefire pick. If you're talking about the Steelers getting a top 5 pick, but I mean the Steelers, they finished 8-8 with Minkah Fitzpatrick. Maybe he gave them 3 more wins, and you could say that they would have finished 5-11, and that puts them right in the back end of that top 10 range, I believe, or in the middle of it. So maybe they get Isaiah Simmons. They don't get Chase Young. Maybe they get Derek Brown as kind of as an interior pass rusher, would only double up on what they have in Hayward, triple up on Hayward and Tuitt. So I think, again, Minkah Fitzpatrick was the answer then, is the answer now, and there's nothing to be disappointed about if you're a Steelers fan.
Goodness, I'm saying, the exact opposite. When you hear his teammates talk about him, they don't talk about him the way they do. Boy, I'm going to maybe touch a nerve here or whatever, but they don't talk about him even the way they do about TJ.
No, it's correct.
They talk about Minkah on a different level.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They talk about him as if he's special. They talk about him the way, and I'm not comparing here or whatever, but I'm just throwing around the comparison to how they talk. They talk about him the way they would talk about guys like Troy, the way they would talk about guys like Rod Woodson, who they see him as special. The coaches see him as special, as in some other bracket. Oh, by the way, I should mention another player that they talked about in that vein was Ryan Shazier.
Yeah, which is crazy thing. But a perfect story to illustrate your point. You all remember the pick 6 against the Colts where Minkah Fitzpatrick picks it off in the end zone and runs it 100 yards back, and it flips the game upside down because it looks like the Steelers are about to lose to Jacoby Brissett, right? Talking to Joe Hayden after that game, because it was Hayden's guy who Minkah jumped in front of.
Right.
Joe, when he was talking about it, he said, I leaped for the ball, and when I didn't feel it hit my hand, I landed on the ground and rolled over, and I thought I gave up a touchdown. And then I hear the crowd roar. I look up, and I just see a 3-9 running down the field. And Joe just said he put his fist up because he knew he was gone, and he knew that that's the confidence that he has, is that as soon as he sees Minkah, he's like, oh, I got this. And it showed later in the year when he was able to jump a route that forced a bad pass at the end of the game from Johnny Manziel, and it wound up being an interception. They play off of each other, and it allows Hayden to finally be that aggressive cornerback that he's always wanted to be. And same goes for Steven Nelson, the other side of the field, when he knows he has him behind him. This guy's another level. Steelers fans, you got your top 10 pick.
Yeah, you got him.